What's going on, guys? Josh here from Momentum Productions, and today I want to introduce to you the Fosicam FM1-45 gimbal. And why is it called the FM1-45 gimbal? Well, it's because that the roll motor here is at a 45-degree angle, which means that you don't have an obstruction of your LCD viewfinder. And that's incredible because a lot of gimbals don't have that feature. Usually they have the roll motor blocking the LCD viewfinder. For example, I have the GIMBAL crane right here. We can see that the roll motor is blocking the viewfinder. So it's great to have that option. So when you buy this gimbal, you get a hard shell case that comes included in the system. It's tough, it's durable, and it's gonna get you through a bunch of drops and spills. Definitely recommend this case. It's fantastic. And it's very similar to the GIMBAL crane. So once we open up the case, you'll notice that there's thick foam protecting your gimbal. It's a custom cutout foam. And the only reason why I see that there would be some issues packing and unpacking is that you have to completely unbalance your gimbal each time. This foam is not that flexible, so either you need to take some scissors and cut out more slots in the foam, that way you can just put in your gimbal, or you can just reset the gimbal each time you pack it up. We also have an international charger that comes included with the system. This adapter also comes in with a bunch of other outlet ports. That way you don't have to worry about buying any extra adapters depending on which country you're going to. We also get a tabletop tripod that comes with the gimbal. It's not the best one, it's metal, it's kind of durable, but I wouldn't bet my money on it. So if you want the best tabletop tripod, I strongly suggest checking out the PerGear tabletop tripod. I'll leave a link for it in the description box below. We also have included two different control cables, one meant for start and stopping video and photo, and we also have another cable that's responsible for charging your camera. A lot of gimbals send cables that are supposed to work with Sony cameras, but a lot of them don't. They just simply charge the camera, but they don't start and stop recording. That's why included with the system is an infrared cable, which definitely starts and stops recording your Sony cameras. And it also allows you to take pictures. We have a trigger in the front of the gimbal handle, which allows you to control that function. Now, the gimbal handle is made out of plastic. It's durable and thick plastic, so you're not going to hear any of those weird cracking noises that you might hear on cheaper gimbals. So to turn on this gimbal, we have a switch on the side of the handle. All we have to do is flip it up. You're going to hear a chime and the gimbal will spring to life and you're ready to stabilize your camera. This gimbal also has 360-degree rotation on all motors and all axes, so don't worry about that. Each motor has its own 32-bit encoder, so we get the best battery life possible and the best accuracy when it comes to stability. We also have a control panel in the back with a 4-way joystick, a home button, and a mode button. Anytime you want to reset the camera to home position or level out the horizon, you just simply press the home button. And you hear that nice little chime. Also, we have the mode button. You can cycle through the modes by pressing the mode button once, twice, 3 times, or even 4 times. And that will change the mode that you're shooting in. On the side of the gimbal handle, we have an accessory port where you can attach different lights or microphones or any other accessory that you want. I have a little complaint though. If we look inside the accessory port, we can see exposed cables. I don't really like this because if you attach a really long screw, it can go into those cables and might short out your system. So hopefully they will fix this in future units and maybe enclose the wires in some sort of casing, and that kind of issue won't happen. Above the accessory port, we have a USB connection input. This allows you to make changes to the individual motors and other parameters that you see fit. But in order to make changes to the parameters of these motors, you have to download BGC software from Basecam. I strongly recommend that you leave the default settings for these motors because if you don't know how to use the software, you can completely fry your gimbal. Trust me, I've been there, done that. I don't want it to happen again. So if you want to take my advice, stay away from adjusting the motor parameters. There's also an app that you can download for your phone because there is a Bluetooth module built in, and you can make these adjustments via your smartphone, again, using that Basecam software. But if you don't know what you're doing, don't do anything because you will definitely damage your gimbal. Now let's talk about the specs of the gimbal. It's rated to hold up a payload of 1,200 grams. I don't think that's accurate because I see that these motors are very powerful. They have a lot of torque. and they easily hold up my Sony A9 with a 16-35 attached. I mean, the motors aren't struggling here. So I think that this gimbal can actually rate up to about 4.5 pounds for payload capacity. So keep that in mind. When it comes to gimbal noise, I think these motors are pretty silent. If you do some rough movements, you can hear them slightly, but it's not that bad. Now there's a few features that this gimbal has that others don't. For example, I can reposition these motors by hand. Now when you hand position these motors, you might hear some squealing noises. That's simply the gimbal telling you that one of the motors is overloaded. That's perfectly fine. It knows what you're doing, so you can just hold your hand in that position for just a few seconds and it's just going to leave the camera in that position. I absolutely love that feature. And then you can simply press the home button and it will reset the camera back to home position. Now, why would anyone want to hand position the camera? Well, there's some positions that you can't really get to by using the joystick. And if you want to quickly manually align the horizon, again, you can just simply do that by hand. No other single-handed gimbal that I've reviewed so far does that, so I love that feature. When it comes to stability, this gimbal does an excellent job. So what I noticed with this gimbal is that when you want to go into inverted mode, you don't go like this. It's not like any other gimbal. You actually have to go into mode 1 and actually pretend like you're tilting the camera down. This is actually the low angle mode. This is inverted mode. All right, so you're not going to be flipping the handle like that like on other gimbals. You're actually just going to be tilting the handle over the camera like that. And that's how you're going to get low angle shots. It's not inconvenient. I don't see being any tougher to control than using the other gimbals in inverted mode, so don't worry about that. Now when it comes down to ergonomics, this gimbal has an excellent handle. It feels very comfortable. It feels like it was made for my hand. It's a pistol grip style handle and it just, I mean, everything is perfectly formed for my hand. Now when balancing your gimbal, I found it to be very easy. It took me about 3 minutes from scratch to balance this thing. Each adjustment arm has these little grooves machined in, and that basically allows us to make finer adjustments, and it prevents the adjustment arm from moving too far. And if you take a close look at these adjustment arms, they're extremely thick. Compared to all of the other single-handed gimbals that I have, this gimbal has the thickest adjustment arms that I've ever seen. So that means it's going to be more robust and it can take much more abuse. So keep that in mind as well. Now, a great feature that this gimbal has that basically puts itself on top of a lot of other gimbals is that it behaves like a Glidecam. I don't know if you've seen my recent video where I demoed that function of this gimbal, but if you haven't, check out that video here. Basically, if we go into mode 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, we are able to incorporate a moving horizon in our shot. I don't have to adjust the roll on this thumbstick here. I can just move the handle in any way that I want and the roll will follow my movement. So that's very similar to how a Glidecam operates. So I would say that if you want a gimbal that behaves very similar to a Glidecam, this is the gimbal for you because it gets you that similar vibe and that similar look. So this gimbal has a built-in 10-hour battery. Not one of my favorite designs because I like using external batteries that I can just pop in and pop out when they die. Once this gimbal dies, you're gonna have to plug it in and wait for it to charge. So that's just one of the negative things about this gimbal that I don't really like, but 10 hours should be plenty enough for you to get through a day's worth of shooting. So if you're wondering if I'm going to make a comparison video of all the gimbals that I have, the answer is yes, I will. The biggest question I'm getting is what does this gimbal stack up to when compared to the G1 crane? On every single gimbal video that I have released, I've been getting questions on how does this compare to the G1 crane, because the G1 crane is basically the industry standard now. So don't worry, we're going to compare all these gimbals to the G1 crane and I'll give you my honest opinion on which I think is the best bang for your buck. So make sure you subscribe to this channel with notifications on. Alright guys, well that's the Fosicam FM1-45 gimbal. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a big like, share it with your friends. Again, subscribe to this channel with notifications on, and check out the link for this gimbal in the description box below. I can't wait to see what you guys create, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.